Dr. Ehlers, I am so glad you agreed to meet with me. I have chosen to do a critical review of your paper titled Quality in E-Learning from a Learner's Perspective for my Master's in Distance Education.
You are so welcomed, Courtney. I am very open in having students discuss my work and to hear what their ideas are.
So Dr. Ehlers, may I first present you with my summary of the main points from your research paper?
Yes. I would be so pleased as to hear a North American perspective on my German published paper.
The first point in your introduction, and the most important, is that the best strategy for e-learning is it must be based on the learner's perspective. That is, the needs of the learner should be the driving force for any e-learning project. The project manager should be aware of the social needs, individual learning preferences, and learning history of the learners as they are developing a course.
Yes. You have gotten the main thrust of this paper. Go on.
According to current quality and evaluation research, the educational process can be subdivided into 5 subsections or sub-processes. These are context quality, structure quality, process quality, output quality, or impact quality. Quality applies to each of those subsections differently.
Yes. This is the basis for my paper and the research design we used. Go on. Please.
In your paper, you depicted the multiple dimensions of quality concepts in e-learning as a quality triangle. Let me start there. You said, there are 3 different and distinct dimensions to quality. They are different meanings of quality, different quality perspectives, and different levels of educational process.
That's correct. So when one wants to define quality, they must position themselves into this multidimensional space you refer to. In my paper, as you have quoted, we looked at the perspective of the learner. It is not acceptable anymore to just think of education as being the acquisition of knowledge alone. It must be based on how, and if the learner is able to apply the information that they have learned, and if they can apply that knowledge to real-life situations.
I was taken aback by your statement. Quality in learning has to be considered as a co-production process between the learning environment and the learner, thus part of their own responsibility. You make the distinction that education, unlike commodities, cannot be traded or bought by the learner. Rather, it is the learner that must be involved in the process in order to benefit from the learning experience.
Yes. The paper that you are reviewing is based on this idea. It was oriented from the learner's needs. The 2 goals of my paper were, 1. The research is concerned with which dimensions of quality in e-learning are important from the learner's perspective, and 2. Quality criteria cannot be applied to all learners, but are dependent on the individual learner's preferences regarding quality in e-learning.
Excellent. That now takes me to the design of your research. You examined the different aspects of quality and the different preferences from the perspective of the learner. The methodology that you employed was a survey involving first a qualitative and then a quantitative approach. In the first phase of your study, you interviewed 56 individuals which were experienced e-learners.
Yeah. This phase of my study was focused on learners with considerable experience in e-learning, and formed the basis of my questions, which were to be used in the questionnaire for the quantitative research phase of my paper.
Okay then. Using a multivariate statistical analysis of your quantitative data, you were able to identify and compiled 153 factors of subjective quality. You then were able to group these into 7 fields containing 30 aspects, dimensions of quality. The 7 quality fields include 1. Tutor support. 2. Quality field. 3. Technology. 4. Costs, expectations, value. 5. Information transparency. 6. Course structure. 7. Didactics.
It was this data which we developed our users' preferences and e-learning model, which was displayed in our figure 3 of the paper you are reviewing.
As you have mentioned, the second phase of your paper consists of the quantitative research, which involved surveying 2,000 learners, using a standardized questionnaire on quality preferences for e-learning. The data was analyzed and grouped by similarities. The results were divided into individual quality preferences profiles and found 4 target groups for quality preferences. These were the individualist, the result-oriented, the pragmatic, and the avant-gardist.
Very well stated, Courtney. This is where I postulate that e-learning has to be based on the learner, and that the needs of the learner are the driving force.
Yes. If I remember, you said that the most important needs identified in your study are learning biography, individual learning preferences, and social need. You go on to say quality therefore has to do with empowering and enabling the learner. As well, that quality in learning has to be considered as a co-production process between the learning environment and the learner.
Well, Courtney, I must say you have done your research. Your summary of my research is one of the more complete and exact renditions I have heard. I'm sure you will do very well on your master's paper. I must answer that call. Will you show yourself out?
This presentation was done as part of assignment 2 for Ad 601, an introduction to distance education and training. Developed by Janine Leffert, Courtney Steiner and Morris Tarek. Would you please now return to Group 3's discussion posting and access their review of their paper and any other reading we may have suggested.